many years, crop circles have been fascinating people all over the world. Although they didn't always get as much attention as they do today, the crop circle phenomenon does have a history of at least many centuries. The first crop circle to be registered was one that appeared in 1678. People thought it was the work of the devil. But then, for many centuries, not one crop circle was reported. Did they just vanish? Was it just this one experiment in 1678? Or were they just not accounted for any longer? Nobody seems to know, but in 1978, the crop circle wave began. In the beginning, they appeared as simple circles, but as time passed, they became more and more complicated. And although many people still associate the formations with the UK only, they appear all over the world. It is true, though, that the major concentration still remains in South England, and especially in the area of Wiltshire and Hampshire. Why is there such a strong centre of appearance? Could there be a connection with the numerous ancient sites? Maybe the ancient sites have nothing to do with it. According to Dr. Terence Meaden, vortex winds are responsible for the appearance of circle-producing vortices. Naturally, swirl winds do exist. We even spotted this beauty near Alton Barnes. The most common trace of wind in the fields, however, looks like this: broken stems lying on the ground in no specific pattern. Just natural damage to the crop. You need a vivid imagination to believe vortex winds are indeed the circle makers. But even if they are responsible for the appearance of the simple circles, how on earth can we explain the more complicated formations? These, for instance, suggest the vortex winds must be of some rare intelligence. Could the crop circles then be made by vandals? Perhaps the same who desecrated the stones in Avebury in the summer of 1996? A bit hard to believe, since the circle formations don't seem to leave any damage to the plants. They are bent, not broken. Whereas the stones were marred with oil paint, which was very hard to remove. what about Doug Bauer and David Chorley, better known as Doug and Dave? The two notorious farmers revealed in '91 to the national press they had been making the crop circles since 1978. They must have had supernatural powers when you realized that every now and then more than 20 formations appeared in one single night. Doug and Dave tried to prove their statement by making a crop circle in broad daylight, which, however, turned out to be a rather crooked one. In an interview in 1993, they claimed to have made about 200 circle formations over the last years. But later they admitted they weren't responsible for all of these 200. It was less than that. And then they admitted they lied about some formations they'd claimed earlier. Doug and Dave said there must have been imitators, copycats, who were active as well, like for instance Jim Schnabel. But the more they spoke, the less trustworthy they seemed to be. Has it all been just a hoax that's gone on for many years and still goes on at this very moment? Were all the formations made by people like Doug and Dave trying to pull our leg? By organised groups of hoaxers roaming around the world during the crop season?
One of the astonishing things of the last few years is the vehemence and the certainty with which so-called researchers will state 90% of circles are man-made, a large number are man-made, a substantial percentage is man-made, and you cannot get a shred of evidence to support this. What they are talking about is not external mechanical reality, but their internal doubt, their internal inability to encompass these miracles. And so this is like a baby's security blanket. I hold on to this and then the world is safe.
For every dramatic pattern we've ever seen, we receive hoax claims. And therefore, what I said to the media, and I would still say on your recording, is where is the evidence?
Colin Andrews was one of the initiators of the Crop Circle research program, together with Basti Taylor and Pat Delgado. They often visited the Wagon and Horses Inn at Beckhampton, where they shared ideas and hypotheses. Some years later, their central meeting point became the Barge Inn in Honey Street near Alton Barnes. People from all over the world and from various disciplines meet in this pub. Writers, biophysicists, mathematicians, architects, entrepreneurs, philosophers, students, and even local farmers who lost their skepticism after many things they'd seen and experienced. More and more people become convinced that the crop formations are not man-made. They gather once a year to share ideas and thoughts, and information about the newest formations. They even spend entire nights together to do a night watch, for instance on top of Woodborough Hill. Another centre of gathering is Glastonbury, Somerset, once the famous Isle of Avalon. Even today, a strange mystical atmosphere surrounds Glastonbury and its beautiful abbey. Jealous Well, where according to legend the Holy Grail lies hidden. And of course the Tor. In the assembly rooms of Glastonbury, a 3-day symposium is organised every year in order to keep the many interested up to date with the newest information. Many different experts share their latest findings and ideas to the great enthusiasm of the listeners, the number of which still grows every year. And in the summer of '96, because of the ever-increasing number of interested people who visit this area to see with their own eyes what on earth is going on, Irene Bott and Mark Hayward opened another information centre in the Red Lion at Avebury, Wiltshire. But if so many people are convinced that this phenomenon is genuine, what about some sound research? Roaming around the crop circle area, you'll find many people performing their own kind of research, such as this lady, trying to measure the energies through a body, all by means of a pair of dowsing rods, for the purpose of feeling the Earth's energy flows. Even by using a metal detector, hoping to find any metal anomaly. And of course, by measuring the size of the formations, including their relative height in the fields. At the Glastonbury Symposium, Patricia Murray demonstrated her idea to spin the drawn glyphs on a lazy Susan, showing the audience how some of them became three-dimensional. This type of experiment was also done by Doug Ruby, author of The Gift, who turned out to get some magnificent three-dimensional shapes. But apart from these fields of experimentation, some further conventional research was done by several scientists, such as Dr. Levengood, a biophysicist at Pinelandia Biophysical Laboratories in Grass Lake, Michigan.
One of the findings, after he has analyzed now over 100 samples from 100 different formations, is that when he plots the cellular changes that he's noticing on there, they fall on a linear line that corresponds very accurately with Beer's law of microwave energy, and it tells how microwave energy interacts with all matter, how the energy reacts with matter. And as you take radial samples from the center of a circle on out to its perimeter, and then keep taking the control samples in a line from that, the controls are those stalks not involved in the formation, he's finding that the dots fall right on or symmetrically around that line. So he believes, after all this study now, that it's a microwave energy.
According to Eilis, one of the clues that the microwave energy leaves behind is what people call blown nodes, or explosion cavities. As the water in the stalks is heated up very quickly by the microwave energy, the cells cannot stand the pressure, and as a result, the plant explodes at its nodes. Indeed, blow nodes are often found inside circle formations, but it's not a waterproof clue, since blow nodes can also occasionally be found outside formations where the stems lie horizontally on the ground, for instance in tram lines. But even apart from the blown nodes, which obviously cannot be man-made, there's another interesting feature. When we take a closer look at the circles themselves, we see a striking diversity and complexity. No circle is alike. Every circle is different. Every single one of them has its own fingerprint, its own identity. This makes it practically impossible for us humans to make them. Can you imagine carefully constructing these subtle features in the middle of the night? But if these clues suggest that they are not man-made, who is making them? Are there any ideas about that?
Well, this is a question which most people have a very firm opinion on. Oh yes, I know that the cropsicles are made by little green men from Alpha Centauri. And I know because they told me, you know. Or it's angels, or it's earth spirits, Gaia herself, or even people from the future, certainly from other dimensions. The candidates, the possibilities are many. But I have not yet seen any proof that it's any one of the above. It may be all of the above, for all I know. But there's certainly some form of intelligence involved here beyond the humans. There's something else is going on. It's very, very interesting indeed.
But what about the locals? Aren't they the ones to have an explicit opinion?
When I saw them at first, I thought they were probably hoaxed, and that was my immediate sort of gut reaction. And I had a look at them, and not being that experienced in looking at circles, I still thought, yeah, they'd probably been hoaxed. But I got to say now I'm probably sitting on the fence a bit. I've seen so many people who think they're the best thing since sliced bread. I'm beginning to change my mind, so I don't know.
The corn is all laid over itself, and you can't do that on the principle of using a piece of string and just pushing it round like that, because it doesn't work. Also, I don't believe that if you put a piece of string tied onto a piece of post or something and you pulled it round, not all the stalks would actually break over. A lot of them would stand up again. At least I'm sure that's what happens when you walk, so I can't say it would be any different any other way. I really don't know what they are, but they are very, very peculiar.
Did you watch Scotty and them on the television, this spaceship job, where he was beamed down and that?
Oh, Star Trek.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's my opinion of these. It's someone out from us and that's beamed down. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much.
In the early morning of June 17th, 1996, when the mist was withdrawing from the east field in Alton Barnes, this magnificent formation appeared. People called it the double helix for its striking resemblance of a DNA molecule. 648 feet long, it covered a large part of the field. It was beautifully constructed, counting no less than 89 circles, forming twin strands of thought bubbles winding around a central backbone of 12 large circles in a line.
I think this was one formation that nobody was even beginning to suggest was man-made, and for various reasons. A, its complexity. B, the fact that it was only visible from the air. It was so accurate. And also the fact that it was videoed very early in the morning and the bloom was still on the crop, which means that it's impossible, people hadn't been in there.
Right.
So that was, that was very exciting.
But the presence of the bloom on the crop wasn't the only amazing aspect of the double helix. David Wire, manager of the hen shop at Avebury, was looking out the window the night the double helix was formed and noticed something weird.
I was looking out of the window up there, and about 10 o'clock in the evening, and it was a very light evening, and way over the horizon to the right of the avenue of stones there were two objects, one above the other like that, moving very, very slowly together. And I saw them for a period of about 10 minutes, I suppose, and sometimes they would disappear and then come back again, disappear and come back again. I showed my partner, and she couldn't see them. I thought it was a speck of something on my glasses, and I rubbed them, and there was nothing there. It was weird. But there was definitely something there. Whether it was light, a ball of light, or whether it was silver, or what, I really can't say. But I saw something. I can't explain it.
And then the next morning?
The next morning we hear about the double helix crop circle over at Alton Barnes, and there we are. That is the direction of Alton Barnes. I went quite cold, I tell you. It was really weird. I mean, I'm a skeptic, always have been, and it made me think.
So apparently, no human being had been inside this field by the time the farmer discovered the formation at 6:30 a.m. Furthermore, David Wire saw strange lights over the same field the night before. But David Wire wasn't the only one to have seen these balls of light.
Over there, over the Vale of Pewsey, last year, 1995, myself and 2 other witnesses saw 3 orange balls of light suddenly switch on over the horizon. The orange balls of light were about as big as the full moon. There was 2 at the bottom and 1 high up in the sky, and they just made a triangle. Well, the 2 people who I was with got quite excited at this, and I'd got my camera set up on a tripod. But I thought, well, I shan't dash for my camera because these things just wink out sometimes when people do, so I thought we'll leave it and see what happens.
Right.
And we were looking over, and about 5 minutes went by, and they didn't move, they didn't blink or anything like this. And then I decided, well, okay, I'll go for my camera now. And I turned the camera around on its tripod towards them and pressed the button to take the photograph. And the camera's got an autofocus system, and it kicked in, and just as the autofocus kicked in, all the 3 lights winked out. So I'm sure they were having a laugh up there that night that I missed all the action.
Like 5 or 7 minutes or so, and everybody going, yeah, it's the same color, but it's not moving, you know, this is very strange, and looked and looked and looked and looked and looked, and finally somebody behind me said, yeah, well, all right, I'm going home to bed, right? At that instant, it goes from not moving at all to ding, like that, instantaneous acceleration. And the guy who had a camera on a tripod, taking a picture of it, right, a video camera, right, for all the frames it's not moving, and then there's one frame where there's just a streak, and the next frame it's gone. I mean, it's just instantaneous acceleration. And it actually came up sort of towards us up into the clouds and disappeared into the cloud. You could see it brighten and dim as it went into the cloud. And I was like, what the heck is this? About 2 or 3 seconds go by and everybody's cheering, yay, all right, we saw it. And I'm saying, what? Well, a couple of seconds went by and then it comes out again, out of the cloud. This time it's brilliant white, very bright white. Goes right over the top of us and splits in 2 and goes off in 2 different directions and then winks out. And I said, in my head, I said to myself exactly these words, okay, now I've seen one.
Now these balls of light and other anomalies are quite often seen and reported, not only high up in the sky, but also hovering inside circle formations. Now this seems to indicate a stronger connection.
1987 at Bratton, near Westbury, Wiltshire. I took a photograph from a pole, which is a technique that I pioneered, and we had noticed that there had been some electrical static noise in the crop around us. And when I got the photographs back, dead center of the circle and about 9 inches off the ground and about 9 inches across was a disc that had come out on film. And we didn't see anything at the time, but there it is on camera. Now, these little discs have been seen since on video and elsewhere, but that was the first recorded thing that we could not understand. We had that analyzed, and people can challenge me on it. It is not a reflection of the sun in the camera. I'm a professional cameraman. I had the sun behind me, and the camera was pointing down. There was nothing to reflect off, and there was this little disc sat in the middle.
Some years ago, Michael Judovich was one of the lucky people to capture a white little sphere on his photo. Oddly, he never saw anything strange until he received his photos. Indeed, these little strange balls of light appear on many photos. In 1995, Nick Nicholson made this still of a circle formation on which a weird puff of smoke turned out to be. At the time he took the photo, it wasn't there. On July 26, 1990, Steve Alexander captured a white ball of light on video at Milk Hill. For several minutes, the light was just hovering in the field. But Steve Alexander wasn't the only eyewitness. There was also a farmer who was working in his field. He saw the ball of light as it flew over him. Now these balls of light seem to be connected somehow with the crop circles. Are they actually the circle makers? And if so, how do they make them? By reconstructing all the stories from eyewitnesses that she'd heard, Eilish put together a theory of how the crop circles might be made. Since many people saw silver and amber balls of light in the sky near circle formations, she made the following hypothesis.
But many people report seeing an amber ball of light in the sky. I believe that this amber ball of light is intelligently guided. And I believe it is what sends out the initial shape or the template form of the formation. It sets up a barrier. In a ring, for example, it would be on the inside and the outside, or on a circle it would just be the perimeter, and it's held by sound. And then the amber ball of light sends out these little silver spheres which have been captured on video, and I believe that the spheres are the technology part that sends out the maser heat in bursts, maybe 18 inches across, and also organizes the wind in spiraling tubes, maybe a meter, a couple of meters long, spiraling tubes. And I believe that the information of how they should lay is encoded at the atomic level in the wind tubes. Go straight, turn right after so many meters or feet or whatever, and curve left. And it so far seems to hold for all, the consistency of that type of creation seems to hold for all of the formations.
But while editing this documentary, we received this footage made by a student at Oliver's Castle in August 96. Since research on this video had not been completed at that time, we can and will not guarantee that this is genuine. Naturally, they are unidentified flying objects. But do they have anything to do with our classical idea of UFOs? With aliens visiting us in their spaceships from other worlds, other dimensions?
There's an enormous impulse to associate the crop circles with the whole UFO thing. I think that has the same degree of connection as tables have 4 legs, animals have 4 legs, therefore a table is an animal.
Right.
You know? The crop circles are a mystery, flying saucers are a mystery, therefore crop circles are associated with flying saucers.
But what about all those night watches on top of Knapp Hill, Woodborough Hill, Adam's Grave, etc., where so many people actually saw UFOs?
That night, Stephen Greer and his group
Yes.
saw a tremendous UFO, a structured craft with lots of lights all over, many colors, and at one point it flipped up like this, and you should talk to one of the people who actually saw that. I'm giving it to you secondhand, but...
And what did you see?
I saw flashes of light, like it looked almost like lightning, except it wasn't coming from the clouds, it was coming from behind the trees. So the trees were suddenly in silhouette, pop, 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 like that.
Really?
And it lasted for about 3 seconds. It's unusual flashing. And apparently, they say, when that UFO finally left, it disappeared into flashes of light. So we saw those flashes of light from up on Knapp Hill.
Does this mean there is a connection between UFOs and crop circles?
I think there's a lot of connection. There's plenty of people who video filmed UFOs over crop circles, particularly in broad daylight and all sorts of things. And many people who visit crop circles have seen UFO activity in the area, and we get reports of UFOs the night before a circle forms. So we have to look at there being a link there somewhere.
Now that could be extraterrestrial. Why shouldn't it be? I don't understand the fear people have of simply using the word quietly behind their hands. The Victorian age is behind us, you know. The future is shaking hands with our partners and our friends and our neighbors. It's knowing what's out there. It's expanding. They are there. And so therefore it might be extraterrestrial.
If aliens are indeed involved here, could they, for instance, be Greys, who thousands of people worldwide claim to not only have seen and met, but also to have been abducted by, for reasons of medical experimentation? Are the ones that create the beautiful circle formations the same as those who abduct people against their will?
It's very difficult to say whether Greys are involved. In regards to outside interference, people ask the question, are we under any threat from the outsiders? It's got to be a 50-50 chance. We don't know what we're dealing with, so they could be good, they could be bad. So it's a 50-50 chance. If it is the Greys, as a lot of people say it could be, but then we just have to wait and see what happens.
If we are being visited, and if there are great things happening on this planet, I think that crop circles and UFOs are just two sides of the same coin. They're both designed to get people to be aware that there's far more going on out there than we can even imagine at the moment.
There are light forces, or those energies who are in service to others, and there are those of the dark forces in service to self. Where there is light, there must be dark. There is a balance. There is always a balance. There are many entities, many groups, energies, non-terrestrial, who are not holding our highest good in mind when they are acting whatever it is that they're needing to follow through on. The circle makers, on the other hand, are in service to others, and the highest form of service to others. And they have absolutely, in my opinion, nothing to do one with the other.
The Grey phenomenon is a puppet show that us poor little mammals can understand, you know, and help us to wake up. Again, it's a carrot and a stick and something in between to get us alert and wake us up, because I think what's happening to humanity right now is like a graduation time has arrived, right? And it's the last second moments to cram for the exam, right? It's a big IQ test, all the crop circles and all this UFOs and everything else.
I think the crop circles are entirely golden, entirely clean, and I'm very worried by any attempt to make this connection, which has as little evidence as the hoax thing. No evidence at all. It's another area, it's another window into our personal psychopathologies.
This ultimate beauty appeared in the night of July 28, 1996, at Windmill Hill near Avebury. It turned out to be the biggest formation ever, 900 feet long, consisting of 194 circles, all of them just perfectly shaped and just a little different from each other. People called it the three-armed Julia set. Julia was a 19th century mathematician whose work was critical to the discovery of fractals, self-similar mathematical structures which play a major role in chaos theory. An infinity of variously shaped Julia sets construct a Mandelbrot, another self-similar fractal which also appeared in one of the English cornfields, in 91 to be precise. The three-armed Julia set was a true masterpiece, but it wasn't the only fractal of 96. This single Julia set appeared several weeks before, on July 7th, in a wheat field opposite of Stonehenge, consisting of 149 circles. This formation really blew everyone's mind, not just because of its beauty and mathematical complexity, but even more so because there was something strange about its appearance. On that 7th of July, at 5:30 p.m, Busty Taylor passed Stonehenge on the A344 on his way to Thruxton Airfield.
What happened an hour and 20 minutes later, I received a phone call from a pilot friend of mine who had flown over Stonehenge at the time at 5:30 at night, and at 6:05, 35 minutes later, the pilot friend flew back over Stonehenge and we had the Julia set over here just to the south of Stonehenge. So in 35 minutes, this 900-foot long combination, 500 foot, 158 circles appeared in 35 minutes.
That's an amazing story, since this implicates the Julia set to be the first reported formation to have appeared in broad daylight. But what about eyewitnesses? What about the hundreds of people that visited Stonehenge that day? And what about the A303, a major highway? People must have seen something.
I've spoken with the police in Wiltshire, the county in which Stonehenge is placed. They have checked their computers and they had no reports of people causing problems on that road, stopping to look at the circles until late in the day on the 7th, nor did Hampshire Police, and that would be the reports on the 999 system, as it's called here, the emergency system. For traffic heading towards the east into Hampshire, that's where they would be putting their 999 calls in, their emergency calls. And they too had no reports at all until late that day. The Ministry of Defence controlled the airspace, they saw nothing. The security at Stonehenge saw nothing either. So we have a very major highway of the A303, London to Exeter, seeing nothing.
So what happened, we just do not know. It's a mystery, but there is a 35-minute time slot that we've challenged people to go into a field and replicate exactly the same formation in the same time slot that we know. It's the first time that we've had such a definite time pattern, and in broad daylight too.
It is a mystery.
So many indications, so many clues, and yet so many questions that still need to be answered. Why, for instance, are we receiving the crop circle formations? Is there a message? And if so, what is that message?
The circle makers are very efficiently stating. They are stating, we wish to have an interaction with you. We're not going to explain anything. We are going to start a series of communications, and bing, these are the forms of the communication. They are in shape and form and geometry and number. They are not in terms of smell. They're not in terms of music, although all these things relate. Primarily they are in terms of shape, form, geometry, number.
crop circles, a truly mysterious phenomenon. Bright balls of light captured on video, UFOs hovering in the sky, circle formations of mathematical precision, bloom still being on the crop. Where will it end? And where does it go from here? Where will it lead us to?
I think the phenomenon has raised many questions, of course. What happens to our soul? What happens to us, to the thought construct, to the intention, to the purpose of being here when our body dies? Is there any real reason why we shouldn't be still available and living in some other dimensional way? Maybe we are closer then to extraterrestrial, to poltergeist experiences, and to many other.
It's time for the humans to join a higher level of being. I'm quite sure of it. And all these earth changes and all the different ways that people see strange things going on and predictions and so forth. We're coming to the year 2000, which is really dramatic, and the Mayan calendar ends in the year 2013, 2012. It's very, very, very important time to be alive.
I'm convinced that we are not alone, never have been alone, and the human race could have actually been, as I say, genetically engineered to fit the planet. Our genetic coding also would take us back to our beginnings. And it may be possible that the crop circle designs are triggering off something in our brain that we haven't seen, but our genetic coding in our past has seen. Therefore, the symbols are reawakening some part of the brain that has laid dormant for many years. So this is why so many people are now becoming interested in crop circles. It doesn't just happen in England, it's a worldwide phenomenon.
And a phenomenon that won't let you go once you've run into it. It's one of the most fascinating mysteries of our planet. We'll just have to wait and see if we can actually solve this mystery. Or, to put it in Peter Sorensen's words, if we will cram for the exam.
I hope to be around when they come by. I want to shake what passes for their hand.